You keep God's word, you treasure God's word, it'll make you strong. And the strength will lead to obedience. So the emphasis, here's the thing, is as believers, we can always be stretching towards a greater sanctification. And we should have an expectation that our children will see a little further than we can and have a little bit better of a start than we did and have more light. And that, going back to the remembering history thing, it's not possible if we don't honor those that came before us and if we don't have great reverence and respect for their mistakes and shortcomings. I mean, if your parents sinned against you, forgive them as you've been forgiven. Learn from it and honor them, because in order to have multi-generational progress, you've got to be able to stand on a man's shoulders and not criticize him for not seeing as far as you can. Paul? Mike's to your right, left.
Work? Does it work? I think a lot of people don't realize is, we had it better than our parents, and we want to give it better to our kids, and that's where we start lacking, because our kids kind of get spoiled over all of it, so they get it easier, and they think everything's just supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
So they forget how to teach their kids of what we've taught them. So it's like it digresses as we grow up with our kids, raising them and not teaching them the right way. We kind of start slacking, and then the cycle begins all over again.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that precisely makes a point that I'm trying to make. I think if you grew up in the Depression, as my father did, and my grandmother on my mother's side, because my mother's mother, was born about 5 years before my dad. She was born 1920. He was born 1925. So he grew up in the Great Depression, and he knew what that was like. And he fought in World War II. He was a 17-year-old. He was a pilot. So that generation knew hard times. And so the hard times did make strong men. But there's a biblical principle that you don't have to have hard times to understand, which is you don't spoil your children. You train up a child in the way he should go. So they kind of stumbled upon hard times make strong men by accident. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't understand the principle that it's good for you to allow your child to endure pain with strength. So when your child skins their knee, falls, when a baby trips learning to walk, you have an opportunity to train them. You can either coddle them and go, oh, there, rewarding them. So it's like, oh, I find that when I fall, mommy, daddy gives me attention, and it actually reinforces weakness. What I do is I think, okay, God designed children to fall, in a sense. Really, I mean, they heal very quickly, unless there's something physically wrong with their bones or something. They trip, they fall, and what you do is you go, oh, you're okay. Look at you, get up, oh, you're good. And that, because I've seen so many children do this. They'll fall, they'll look around, they'll see mom. You've seen it, right? They'll cry because what they really want is they want love and attention. So do you give them love and attention? Of course, especially when they're thoughtful, they're kind, they cleaned up, they said please and thank you. Praise them for the good things they do. Don't give them too much attention because they fell. Because it's amazing. Children can learn to endure pain. God also ordained teething to be painful. You think about it. All children have to go through it. It's horrible. Kids got a runny nose and everything else, and their teeth are hurting and they're whiny. And is it okay to give them extra, comfort them? And well, of course. But it's also a good idea to keep in mind. I want my child to be a strong adult who can endure pain, sorrow, loss, hard work, discomfort. And so if you understand the principle, you train them for that. I remember I was actually surprised it works. One of my children was kind of whining or complaining about something, and I said, cry quietly. Okay. And they met it, and I was like, wow, they actually did that. And now have, that child has great emotional strength. And I just think it's important to understand the principle, because, hard times out of necessity. It's like, I got back in the Depression, maybe, listen, I got so many things to worry about. I can't worry about you, kid. And so it makes strong kids. The better thing to do is to understand the principle and be very intentional to train our children to be strong and courageous and brave and kind and compassionate and hardworking and serve. If you just give in to everything they want to do and you make them the center of the home and it's all about, it's not good. A child-centered home, it's not good for the child. Don't just do it because it's not good for your marriage. It's not good for the child to be the center of everything. It's just not. Children need to learn that they're part of a family, and therefore they're a contributor, they're to work, they're to serve, they're to be kind. They can be thoughtful, they should be polite, they should respect their elders, they should look people in the eye, they should be friendly, they should care to meet other people and talk to them. That shyness is a form of rebellion sometimes that parents tolerate. Go just shy. Well, okay. One thing I did when my children was little is I didn't do this with all of them, and I didn't do it all the time, but I did do it at times. It's like, hey, let's do handshake practice, or let's learn how to introduce. We might see somebody new at church today. What say to them? You train them for it intentionally, not accidentally. Hard times make strong men. Accidentally. Obeying God's word, following his principles, his precepts, his statutes, and his laws intentionally raise strong children. Even in prosperous times, you can raise a strong, morally godly individual. You don't have to wait for a crisis to have a strong generation. We can be intentional. We can break this cycle. We don't have to say, well, we're luxury. We have all these luxuries. We just have to go out and be decadent. No, we don't. We can intentionally opt out of the decadent culture that we see around us. We don't have to spoil our children. It's not good for them. And they may end up in Hades because they never learned to fear God, and therefore they never appreciated the beauty of the gospel. They never appreciated the blessing of the gospel because they never understood the curse of the law.